Once upon a time, in a small village by the sea, there lived a young fisherman. Every morning, before the sun touched the horizon, he was already at the harbor, mending nets, preparing lines, and studying the tides. His mentor, an old sea captain, had taught him everything he knew. Speak less, the captain would say. Work harder. Master every aspect of the sea. Learn to read the weather, the currents, and the fish, and never ever stop improving your craft. The young man listened, and for 10 years he followed these teachings exactly. He learned how to find fish when others returned empty-handed, how to predict storms before they appeared on the horizon, and how to repair nets so well that they never tore. 10 years later, the old captain retired to the lighthouse, and the young fisherman became one of the most skilled in the village. He continued his work with the same dedication, the same diligence, just as he had been taught. But something was wrong. One evening, as the sun set over the water, he climbed the hill to the lighthouse to visit his old mentor. The captain was sitting outside, watching the waves. He saw the young man approaching and noticed something in his walk, like a heaviness. "What troubles you?" the old man asked. The young fisherman sat down beside him, and for a long time said nothing. Then finally he spoke. "I have followed your teachings exactly," he said quietly, "for 10 years. I know every reef, every current, and every fishing ground. I bring in more fish than anyone in the village. When the nets tangle, I fix them. When the weather turns, I'm the one they ask to read the sky." But the younger fishermen, the ones who barely know how to tie a proper knot, well, they've all been made captains of their own boats. They have their own crews and their own share of the profits. While I still work for daily wages, as if I was still your apprentice. The old captain listened. He stood slowly and paced to the edge of the cliff, looking out at the darkening sea, and after a long silence, he turned back. "Tell me," he said, "are you certain that you have become indispensable to the village?" The young man nodded. "Yes, I know I have." The captain smiled slightly. "Then tomorrow," he said, "you must stay ashore. Tell the harbour master you are ill. Tell him whatever you like. It is time for you to give yourself a rest." The young fisherman was puzzled by this advice. Stay ashore, when there was work to be done. But the more he thought about it, the more it began to make sense. Perhaps they didn't know his value, and perhaps they needed to see what happened without him. So the next morning, he did not go to the harbour. Instead, he stayed at home and waited. That evening, just after sunset, the harbour master came to his door. The man looked exhausted, frustrated. "Where were you?" he asked. "The boats came back half empty. The nets were tangled beyond repair, and no one could read the weather. 2 crews went out when they shouldn't have, and barely made it back. We lost an entire day's catch because you weren't there." He paused, then he spoke again, more calmly this time. "I'm promoting you to lead fisherman. You'll have your own crew, a share of the profits, and a say in how we run things. We can't afford to lose you again." The young man returned to the lighthouse that night, grateful. "You were right," he said to his mentor. "Surely this is the secret to success." The old captain started to speak, but the young man was already leaving. And from that day on, whenever he felt undervalued, whenever he wanted better treatment, a bigger boat, and more respect, he would stay ashore. And every time he returned, his situation improved. A larger crew, a better boat, more authority. This pattern continued for months, until one morning he arrived at the harbour to find his boat gone, and the harbour master was waiting for him. His face was hard, unsmiling. "Your position has been terminated," he said coldly. "We've hired someone reliable, someone we can count on to be here when we need them." The young man stood frozen, in shock. He couldn't believe it, not knowing what else to do. He climbed the hill once more, to the lighthouse, to ask his mentor how everything had gone so terribly wrong. "Why?" he asked, his voice breaking. "Why did I lose everything? Did I not do exactly as you instructed?" The old captain looked at him for a long moment, then shook his head slowly. "No," he said quietly. "Actually, you did not. You heard only half the lesson. You were so eager to use what you learned that you left before I could teach you the second half." The young man felt his chest tighten. "Second half," he whispered. What? What was the second half?" The old captain walked to the lighthouse, placed his hand on the wall, and spoke. "You understood immediately," he said, "that no one pays attention to a light when it is always burning. It is only when the light goes dark that sailors suddenly look up and realize they have been taking it for granted, taking its guidance for granted." He turned to face the young man. "But what you did not wait to hear, what I tried to tell you that night, is the second half of the lesson. The second half, more important than the first, is this: if a lighthouse goes dark too often, if sailors cannot rely on it to guide them home, then sooner or later it will be replaced with a light that never fails, a light they can count on. Who wants a lighthouse that they cannot trust?" The young man stood silent, the weight of understanding settling over him like the evening tide. He had learned to make himself noticed, but he had forgotten to remain dependable. The old captain's voice softened. "You are not the only one," he said. "We all make this mistake. In your work, you wanted to be valued, and that is good. But you confused being noticed with being valuable. True value is not in your absence, it is in your presence, in showing up day after day, storm or calm. Being reliable is not the same as being invisible. You can be both seen and steady." He paused, and then asked a question. "In your life, do you have people you take for granted? Friends who are always there for you? Family who never fail to answer when you call? What happens if one day they are no longer there? Do not wait for that day. Do not wait to lose them, to realize how important they were. Give thanks today for the gift of having them in your life." The young man nodded slowly, understanding now both lessons. "And what of me?" he asked. "What do I do now?" The old captain smiled. "You start again," he said. "But this time, you find the balance. Do not let yourself be taken for granted, but do not abandon your post just to prove your worth. Work hard, be present, be excellent, and when you need rest, ask for it honestly. Respect is not taken, it is earned, through consistency, through reliability, and by being the lighthouse that never goes dark." The young fisherman left the lighthouse that night, changed, The winds still blew, the tides still turned, and the sea had not changed. But he had. And when he returned to the village the next morning, he did not ask for his position back. He simply began again, mending nets, reading the weather, showing up. Find the balance in your life, and life will reward you with balance in return. If this story spoke to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, true value is not proven by absence. It is built through presence.